Okay, we're gonna start this again. Hi there. Welcome to my neighborhood. I've decided to go for a quick stroll around the neighborhood where I live, which is Shau Kei Wan. And Shau Kei Wan is a town, I guess you could say, on the northeastern coast of Hong Kong Island. And the word town is a weird one, because Shau Kei Wan is quite an old area. And let me just show you what I mean. Hold on a second. I mean, look how tall these buildings are. If we were in the UK, which is, I grew up in a smallish town, a medium-sized town in the UK, and you just caught me crossing during a red light. Even the shortest buildings in this town, Shau Kei Wan in Hong Kong, would be taller than the tallest building in my hometown. Look at that. But yeah, Shau Kei Wan is a really nice place to live. The transportation is very convenient. I remember when we first moved here, looking at things like access to beaches and things. You can go to Shek O and Big Wave Bay, both of which are really nice beaches. Big Wave Bay is one of my favorite beaches in Hong Kong. You can go to pretty much everywhere really easily. Okay then. I have just woken up after having 6 hours of sleep, and I was hoping that, the sun officially rises at 6:45. I was hoping that it would be a little bit darker out here and a little bit quieter, and that would make for a nice video. I should have woken up a little bit earlier. It's already bright. So I don't know if anyone is going to start looking at me strangely. So we used to live, when my wife and I first got married, we used to live in that tower over there, which is right next to this bus station. And I remember when we first moved in, we went to view the house in the daytime, and the flat, sorry. And it was nice, it was quiet, or it seemed quiet in the daytime. And, we were very happy to move in. The very first evening sleeping there, it was horrible. I remember it being really, really horrible because it was so noisy. You can see here, that building is right next to this flyover. And the whole evening, all through the night, you could hear cars driving past, you could hear trams in the distance, and it was so noisy. And I remember thinking, I can't live here, because I was used to living in a really, really quiet flat before, and moving here was really, really noisy. I've been telling you how nice Shau Kei Wan is, right? It was so noisy. The amazing thing was, I got used to it. I remember, after a few weeks of living there, I didn't even notice the noise anymore. Now, we didn't stay there for that long. I think we lived in that flat for a couple of years. We were only renting. after that, we moved to a new flat, which was, you know, much, much quieter. It's super quiet here this morning. So yeah, Shau Kei Wan is an old area in Hong Kong. And when I first came to Hong Kong, like, God, 20 years ago. And back then, this area wasn't just old in terms of buildings. No offense intended to the residents, but there were a lot of old people living here too, right? It was noticeably an older district. But that's changing quite a lot. I mean, we've got these towers going up now that are ridiculously tall. And, you know, every time they pull down some of these older buildings, they make these super tall residential towers in their place. I hope you can still hear me okay, it's quite noisy. So it's coming up to 7 o'clock now. Some people are getting ready to go to school. In Hong Kong, the schools also open super early. So office hours, oh, you didn't really get to see the front of that. Office hours in Hong Kong are quite similar to what they would have been, you know, when I was back in the UK. 9 till 5, maybe overtime 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. But when I was living in the UK, I would go to school at 9 o'clock in the morning. A lot of the kids here are at school at 8, sometimes before that. So you'll see, you know, it's not even 7 o'clock yet, it's 6:50 in the morning right now. And there's kids waiting for the bus to go to school, looking exhausted. Sorry if I'm struggling to speak, it is early and I'm sleepy. Imagine how those kids feel. I'm going to be careful not to record people too much. Oh, I can't flip the camera. Yeah, I don't want to be making identifiable recordings of people as I'm going around, do I? You can hear just how noisy it is. But our new flat is far less noisy than this. So one of the reasons that I was thinking about making this recording is that, you know, it's 2020, it's the end of November 2020, and there's a chance that we're going to be going into lockdown again. I don't know, and you know, I don't think anybody knows right now, but the coronavirus situation here is not that stable right now. I think we're a little bit worried that that there'll be problems again. And I wanted to make a video walking around, and then I was wondering if the situation got worse, you know, whether I would be able to make this video in the coming weeks. So I thought that I'd better do it now. And also, you know, I don't know what things are like where you are. I know that, you know, in some countries the situation with the pandemic I'm sorry if this is noisy. I'm going to find a back street to walk down because these Hong Kong buses are incredibly noisy. Yeah, let's go for a walk down the back streets. So, I don't know what the situation is like where you are. You know, the news says that it's bad in some countries. I know from my parents in the UK that the situation isn't great there. But then you get other places like, you know, New Zealand or Taiwan, where things seem to be, you know, largely under control. But it doesn't really matter where you are. We're not really able to travel around these days. Hey, Pluto. You know, even if you are if you are lucky enough to be in a country where the coronavirus situation isn't too bad, we can't travel around and we can't visit other countries. So I thought that it would be nice to make some videos walking around Hong Kong. You know, for anyone who would like to have a little, you know, glimpse at what it's like to travel. I think a lot of us might have forgotten. Now, if you were traveling in Hong Kong, you might not be walking down back streets like this. But in general, it's safe enough to do this. I mean, like, of course in the morning it's pretty safe anyway, but even in the evening in Hong Kong, I have in general found it to be a really safe, really nice place to live in and to travel around. And, you know, of course nowhere's perfect, but it's largely fine. This street here has a lot of restaurants that would be open in the evenings, and some, you know, some other shops and things as well. But I think that, you know, if they put up some lights and if they had a few more restaurants here, it would have a lot of character. You can see what they've been drinking. Unlike most of my videos, this is not a Pokemon Go video. That said, I can't quite help but think of the map of Hong Kong in terms of the Pokemon gyms and Pokestops. This is quite nice. Love you, it says. It looks like the Chinese character for love, but it's got the English word love you kind of written into it. I'm going to take you to a Pokestop up here. Sorry, I'm going to take you to a real world location up here. So we just, you know, a very short walk away from the main street over there. And it's already very, very quiet. So here we have I would use the word shrine to talk about this place. I mean, it's not exactly a temple, is it? And there's a whole lot of these dotted around Shau Kei Wan. There's shrines and some smaller temples as well. And you'll find in Hong Kong, in former fishing villages and in seaside communities, there's a lot of these shrines dotted around. I think that I don't know, maybe, and the fishing villages are the older villages in Hong Kong, but perhaps people going out and fishing are especially religious. Maybe when you are traveling out on the ocean and it's dangerous and where you are kind of at the mercy of the weather, maybe that will encourage you to be a little bit more religious. I don't know, but you will find so many temples near these fishing areas. Now you might think to yourself, there's no water here, right? This is not the seafront. But you have to remember that a lot of the coast of Hong Kong is actually reclaimed land. And the coast used to be much farther inland than it is now. Now, I'm not going to take the lift. I'm going to go up here. My boy goes to school just down this road. So, a lot of the temples in Hong Kong were originally very, very close to the seafront. This tram line here, actually, I believe it used to be a seaside tram that is now really, really far away from the coast. And I know that it's not true all of the way, but for a lot of the length of the tram journey, it would have originally have been right next to the seafront. But land supply is an issue in Hong Kong. So what they've had to do is they've had to reclaim more and more land from the harbour. And you can see maps of it. You can, there are maps showing like the original waterfront and what it is now. And it's kind of crazy to look at, because there's these large swathes of land that weren't there 100 years ago. Speaking of 100 years ago, these trams, the tram line itself is over 100 years old, I think. But a lot of the trams are really old too. There's not that many new trams. I've just got a message from my telephone network saying that I'm approaching my data cap. Over there you can see that flag, that multicolored flag down there, and that's a Buddhist flag. And inside this building there's another temple. Now that's not the kind of temple that I was just telling you about. The shrine that was way back over there is just a small local shrine. Down here, inside this old building is a Buddhist temple, and you'll find lots of those around. Quite a lot of the time churches and temples and things like that are upstairs in these older buildings. Right, it would be quite unusual to find a church as a separate building, unless it's either a particularly old church, I guess you could say. Like, when there are some of the old main churches have their own buildings, or a particularly rich church, they might have their own building. But most smaller congregations would be, they would just be renting a unit in a building and converting that into a space. It is very rare for me to see this area so quiet. I'm starting to wake up now. I hope you'll forgive whatever gibberish I was spouting at the beginning of the stream. Let's have a look up here. This super tall building is a residential one too, called Lime Gala. A lot of these buildings have got really interesting names. And we used to live over here in that tallish, you know, by Lime Gala standards, it's not very tall. We used to live in this building. And my boy's bedroom would have been one of those windows on the left-hand side. And I remember when we first moved in that we were thinking about how, you know, if he sat at his desk looking out of the window, that he would be overlooking his school, and that perhaps somehow the good grades would waft their way over from the school, you know, into his homework, you know, as he would be doing his homework in sight of the school. Now, I think I know where it all went wrong, because not long after moving in, they built this giant thing. And the view of the school promptly disappeared. You can see the tram again over there in the distance. Now, when I was thinking about making this video yesterday, I thought that I wouldn't come down this street because I imagined that in the very early morning, the market would be really noisy and really busy. Looking over here, it's not as busy as I thought it would be. Everyone's just setting up. So let's go for a walk. Honestly, I thought it would be really crowded. When we used to live here, you would be woken up in the morning by the sounds of the market. But it's almost empty. Everyone's just setting up shop here. I'm not going to look too closely at what everybody's doing. It's a little bit weird recording people's faces too closely. But you can look at some of the things on sale. You know, some of this might be the same as a market near where you live. Some of it might be a little bit different. You get a lot of tofu down here, along with the usual suspects. We're getting close to where we live right now. One thing about Shau Kei Wan is how, you know, for a residential area, it is super convenient. So, you know, way back down there was that bus station that will take you to a lot of places, not only on Hong Kong Island, but, you know, in Kowloon as well. Another building has gone. I wonder whether they're going to go super tall with this one as well. So, you know, it's convenient in terms of like transportation, but we've also got this, you know, long street market over there with quite a lot of stuff to buy. There's a lot of restaurants here as well. And it's, I think in general, Hong Kong is a very convenient place, but Shau Kei Wan is particularly so. Right, it's just quiet enough to be comfortable, but just kind of like crowded enough to have everything that you'd need. Everywhere's closed down here. Okay. I'm gonna take you across the way. I'm not sure whether you can see it in the distance, but there is another temple down here. But before we get there, this building is a municipal building. It's is it this one or the one next door? There's 2 blocks here, and there used to be a market, Shau Kei Wan wet market, in that building. And nobody went there because we've got that street market just down the road. And, you know, since I've lived here, it has never been popular, and they've closed it down now. I guess the competition of the other market nearby meant that it wasn't that popular, I guess. And we have another temple here. So we can't go inside this one right now. There is a temple CCTV in operation. Let's have a look. Okay, this will be open at 8 o'clock, so we're about an hour early to visit the temple. One thing to remember, if you are going to temples in Hong Kong or shrines, some people think that you shouldn't take photos of shrines, especially if there's incense burning. Some people might not like that. So if you are, you know, visiting temples and shrines, make sure that you are extra careful just to be a little bit aware of your surroundings, right? You don't really want to be offending anybody or yeah, I don't think people will be angry with you as such, but you know, just be a little bit careful. My rule of thumb is that if there's people there, you know, you might want to stand back and not take any photos, or if there's incense burning. I'm going to cross over to the other side of the street. Hold on a second. So this street here, this is Shau Kei Wan Main Street East. And, you know, in addition to that street on the other side of the road that we just walked down, it's the other side of the road, on the other side of Shau Kei Wan, there was that street with the trams that we walked down. That street and this street are probably what people think about when you talk about Shau Kei Wan. And this street in particular is famous because there's restaurants all the way down the length of the street. So if you say that you live on Dong Dai Gai, you know, Shau Kei Wan Main Street East, the first thing that people will say is, oh, you've got a lot to eat. That said, I think this building here, opposite where we live, is going to be demolished. We've noticed that one by one there have been less and less lights on in the evenings, and one by one the shops and restaurant on the ground floor are disappearing, and right now there's only one left, Gum Sing, famous for the beautiful writing on its menus. I'm just going to walk past here. I do come here for breakfast quite a lot. So. I don't know if you saw that because I was trying not to look through the door when the boss came to the door, but he did give me a wave as we went past. honestly, I keep thinking that I should have woken up half an hour earlier and gotten that transition from nighttime to daytime. That would have been quite nice. You can see down here, we have these little shrines in doorways as well. And that's really, really common in Hong Kong. Not only for like restaurants or, you know, businesses outside, but if you live in an older building, people will have these little shrines, you know, not everybody, but some people will have these little shrines outside of their house. Some people have these little shrines outside of their homes as well. So if you go to like some really old buildings.
Yes.
See, I'm famous on this street. Anthony, what are you doing? Hold on a second. I was suddenly a little bit embarrassed there for a second and I didn't know what to say. Now, even though there's not that many people around, there's kind of less to see at this time. No, actually, it's different. There's different things to see. There's a whole bunch of cats down this street that live in the shops that I would love to introduce to you. But the shops just aren't open yet. I'm starting to get strange looks. Okay, now this restaurant right here is called Onlay. And they sell toast and noodles and things like that. This restaurant over here on the opposite side of the road is also called Onlay. And I think they have a different boss, but it's the same name. And I'm guessing there's a story there. Hello, how are you?
What are you doing here?
I'm recording people.
Oh,
So say goodbye. It seems like I'm famous. I'm not. That's brilliant. Okay. We have another temple here. Again, this temple is not open. You're going to watch this and be like, wow, everybody in Shau Kei Wan knows Anthony. We have literally met 2 out of 3 of the people who know me around here. And we're coming to the end of my street. So there are a lot of places here. I found living in Hong Kong that I eat out so much more than I used to in the UK. And part of that is because eating out in the UK is really expensive. But in Hong Kong, it is cheap enough. I mean, look at this places here. Now these are Hong Kong dollars. Okay, so how much is that? A meal here for $58, $68. That's £5-6. And back in the UK, you couldn't buy very much for that. But here you could have a meal. And because of that, you know, overall, I think that I spend a lot more money on food here than I used, like on eating out here, than I used to in the UK. Hold on. You don't want to be looking at my chin. Either of them. I spend a lot more money, you know, than I used to in the UK. I mean, eating at home isn't that expensive here either. But in terms of like the cost of living, food isn't that high up on the list. Now, rent or mortgaging a house, that's crazy expensive in Hong Kong. Okay, we are just coming to the end of the street. Oh, there we go. There's a church in the distance, and they got their own building as well. Am I going to meet the third person who I know? Okay, and this is the end of Dong Dai Gai. I'm starting to get a little bit hungry, but nowhere's open. Now you can't see, I think it's closed. But there is another temple here. And we're not going to look under the shutters or anything, that would be rude. But here a shop unit has been converted into a temple. You can see the lotus petals here. Those are really pretty. I think this is a Buddhist temple as well. Okay, where should we go now? I think one of these buildings over here is a new hospital building. I think we should head over there, past another temple. Just waiting for the traffic lights. Even over here, I'm not sure if you can see it. I'm not going to cross the road, firstly because it's a red light, and secondly because there's a police car over there. But I'm just going to very, very, very quickly look over here. And you will find, you know, things like these little plaques in lots of different places in Hong Kong. And I guess there's people who put them there. There must be people who maintain them. Okay, this is where I wanted to go. Hold on. We're getting closer to the seaside. And there's more and more people around. I'm not sure if the seaside is the busier area or just because it's getting later. It's 7:20 right now. And here we have yet another temple. Let's see if this one's open. Again, if there's people inside, I probably won't go in. But I just wanted to have a look. Some people say that you can recognize temples by the kinds of tiles on the roof. They say that if you have rounded tiles like this, that those are temple tiles. Now, again, I'm not going to put my camera in this guy's face, but there is a gentleman on the other side of the road with his hands together, praying in the direction of the temple. Let's have a look. And this one is still closed. Yeah, some people say that you can tell which building a temple is by these tiles. But a lot of buildings that are trying to look more traditional, I guess, have the same tiles. So, or they have similar looking tiles. So I don't know kind of how true that is. Again, I'm not going to poke my camera through there. That's a letterbox. What's down here? I think there's like some, they call them shipyards, some boat repair companies down here. Let's go and have a look. There's not much to see, they're all closed. But there are a bunch of shipyards down here, which again, it means we're getting close to the sea. There are a lot of dogs here running in my direction. Yeah, I'm not going down there. They look like they're having an argument among themselves, but I don't want to get into the middle of that. They look kind of like guard dogs. It seems that nobody's watching my stream right now. That's good, right? This building. This is Hong Kong Art School. You'd have thought they would have picked a nicer shade of yellow. Okay, I am deciding whether to go straight out to the harbour front or through this nice little park down here. I think we'll go to the park. I should do another walk down here in the evenings because these lights are really nice in the evening. it is, you know, a tiny bit romantic. Just a bit. One thing that we have quite a lot of in Hong Kong is basketball courts. And I'm sure this isn't unusual to our American friends, but in my hometown, we do not have in the UK I mean, we do not have a single basketball court. What we do have is a hoop. In the park, in Solihull in the UK, Bruton Park, there is a single basketball hoop that you can I guess practice shooting at, but there's no courts outside. But basketball courts are a common fixture in Hong Kong. You see them everywhere, right? Pretty much every area has got a few basketball courts around. There's a little bit of Tai Chi going on over there. Here we go. We are approaching Aldrich Bay Promenade. And this is really nice. Here we go. Have a look at that. You've got your yachts. What do you call these small boats? I remember I always thought they were sampans, but there's another word for very, very small Chinese style boats that I can't remember off the top of my head. You've got your fishing boats. We should ask this person on there, not sampan, what you call the not sampans. You've got your Pokemon gym right here. Maybe that's what this is for, is telling you not to get too close to the gym. And again, all of these super tall buildings here are residential. I mean, how many people live in that? This is Grand Promenade, and I think it's expensive, so we don't live there. If I were one to go out and do exercise, this would be a really nice place to do it. It's lovely. The only thing that I would say I wouldn't recommend, but a lot of people do it, is fishing here, because the water isn't that clean. There's a typhoon shelter out there, so there's a barrier to protect all the ships that are parked here. You know, when you get storms and things like that. And because of that, a lot of this water becomes a little bit stagnant. there's often a smell to it. And sometimes the water here is kind of like visibly dirty. It looks fine today. It looks fine today. But sometimes it doesn't. But you get a lot of people fishing here. And I guess they're not eating the fish. I don't think you would want to eat the fish that you've caught here. Hold on. Okay. No drones. Did they say anything about video recording? To avoid nuisance or danger to other users, flying of kites, model aircraft, drones, and other devices is prohibited here. They didn't say anything about just walking down here with a camera, did they? So, I think we're good. This building is a primary school, I think. Which is pretty big. My primary school back home had 180 students, but that would be one grade here. The primary schools are quite big here. I remember when I was growing up, I think it was 6 primary schools would feed into one secondary school, you know, at least for my school. So, you know, there was only one class in each grade, and everybody knew everybody, and, you know, the teachers knew the kids really well and their families. In Hong Kong, it's a little bit less so. So when I was at school, we had, for most subjects, we had the same, like when I was in primary school, for most subjects, they were all taught by the same teacher. So unless you were going to do sports or music or something where you needed a specialist teacher, most of the time you were being taught by a single teacher. But Hong Kong primary schools, you know, they have different subjects and different teachers, and there's a lot more students in one grade. And it's a lot closer to what secondary school was like for me in the UK. And in terms of the amount of homework, I remember when I was, sure we had, you know, reading homework to do, but we had very little homework in primary school. But for the kids in Hong Kong, you know, they tell me that, and I saw with my boy as well, they have so much homework to do. They have a ridiculous amount. Now we're heading kind of out of Shau Kei Wan right now, towards another area which is called Sai Wan Ho, and that would be over there. And yeah, on Hong Kong Island, you have Tai Kung in the distance, which you can't see here, which is a really large estate built kind of around a shopping mall. And it was in the past, you know, one of the more high-class estates in Hong Kong. It still is, in a sense. I mean, if you said that you lived in Tai Kung, most people would think that was quite a nice place to live. But the style of that estate is, it's these, you know, lots and lots of tower blocks surrounding a park podium, and then there's a main shopping mall kind of like in the middle. And all of those buildings were built by the same developer. And it's a different style. When you go to Sai Wan Ho over here, and you can't see it, but the street looks kind of similar to that first street that I showed you in Shau Kei Wan, with the tram going down the middle of it. It's a lot more older buildings and older shops. And it's a very different style. But they're all super close to each other. So for us, we would often go to Taikoo, even though we don't live in Taikoo. We would often go to the shopping mall in Taikoo, you know, to go to the cinema, you know, pre-coronavirus, or to go shopping. And there's a lot more, you know, there's a lot of larger retailers there and chain stores and things like that. Just kind of adding a little bit to the convenience of this place. What would this be over there? I think that those buildings are Yao Tong. That's on Kowloon side. There's a place called Yao Tong. There's a tunnel that goes not from over here. It's kind of like on the other side. But there's a cross harbour tunnel. The eastern cross harbour tunnel goes over there for vehicles. And then there's Guntong on the far side. You can't really see it here, which used to be more of an industrial area. But again, like in Hong Kong, industrial areas are now just areas. There's not that much industry in Hong Kong these days. This is a really nice time to be out. I'm starting to understand what why old people get up so early. The elderly in Hong Kong are famous for going to Yam Cha really early in the morning. And I'm not an early waker. I'm a bit of a night owl. So if I got invited to a 7 o'clock Yam Cha, I don't think that I could handle that. Oh, the colours on this boat are quite similar to that Buddhist flag that I showed you before. I don't know if that means anything. There's actually a Buddhist ceremony that some people do. Oops. An activity, I guess, is a better word than a ceremony, where they will go and release fish back into the ocean as an act of kindness or mercy. It's kind of like the opposite of fishing, and I don't know how good an idea that is. Oh, I'm just wondering whether this ship over here, I'm not sure whether you can see it on the stream, but there are coloured flags all the way around kind of the edge of this boat. And yeah, they look like the colours of that flag that I showed you before on the Buddhist temple. So I'm wondering whether that boat is one of those merciful fish releasing vessels. And this is Aldrich Bay Park, which it's been redone. It was renovated a few years ago. And I really like this park. Have a look at this. This is really pretty. So these boats and ships, you know, they aren't real. They're not seaworthy. And this water is literally a couple of centimeters deep. but it's pretty. Let's go around the back of the ship so you can see how to get on. There's actually nobody watching this stream right now. Some people might be watching it later on. So either I get a lot more eyeballs with the hashtag Pokemon Go streams, or maybe I just didn't share this stream properly. I could have pressed the wrong button. There has been an update to Streamlabs on mobile, and I'm not entirely sure if I'm doing this right. So when I get home, I'll have to check to see whether this is actually recorded or not. There's a lot of detail on this boat. I wonder if this is an actual boat that was put here, or whether it was entirely constructed. I mean, whether it was entirely constructed just to go into the park. I'm guessing that it was put here, you know, that it was built to be here. Yeah, it was. Look at that. It is all for show, isn't it? But it's quite nice. And I think, you know, the older and more broken it gets, the more it looks like there's an old broken ship here. There's a lot of people here doing their exercises. I'm going to try to not point the camera in their faces. Do you think I'm going to get a copyright strike on some of these old Chinese songs? But yeah, I think I'm going to call it a day soon. If you are watching this later on, thanks for joining me for this live walkabout town. Just going to find a nicer angle of that boat to say goodbye from. So, thank you for joining me for this live walkabout town. And yeah, I might do some more videos like this. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.